growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, you're tuned in to The Lionhearted Dentist with Dr. Steve Rasner. Welcome back everyone. I've kind of lost track what week this is, to be honest. I don't mind sharing with you that it's the first week of May. Each week, I become more sensitized to not wanting to waste a moment of your time. And I say that to you because I don't know about you, but I am just out of my mind, overloaded with alternatives on Facebook or the internet about this webinar or that webinar. And here you guys tune into me, a lot of you, week in and week out. I know I'm not going to change your life, but it's a huge responsibility, even if you tune into me for like 15 minutes. So I hope I help you. I hope I'm helping you. It seems I continue to get feedback that I am. My point is as we go through this together, this is unforeseen, obviously, to everybody that's giving you advice, including me. You know, nobody's been through this. Nobody really knows what to expect. So as you know, during the Corona pandemic podcast time period, I've been kind of taking you through my timeline as to exactly what I'm doing. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. Today is going to be about two things. It's going to be about a recent visit to my office for emergent care. It was the third time that I went. And it was very different for me this time. And I want to give you my takeaway on that and what it's going to require, my opinion, from you. And I want to continue to talk about post-opening treatment planning, if we get to that in this time period. Here in the United States, a lot of states, as you know, have begun to reopen. Now, I can't give you the number on it, but 3 weeks ago, no states were open for anything but strict emergent dental care. And now that's changing in states, I believe, like Arizona, Texas, even Florida. So maybe what I'm saying to any of my followers there might be on deaf ears, I'm not sure. But I'm located, for those of you out of the United States, in the state of New Jersey, and we remain in a state of limbo. Our governor has continued to extend what he calls an indefinite period, and he has not authorized, even though the ADA and the Academy of General Dentistry and many other leading dental leadership groups have advocated for our return. I think the bottom line in our governmental structure is, and certainly that's going to ring true to a lot of your employees that are going to fall on that, and I'll talk about that. It's indefinitely closed for now, except for what they're calling emergent care, and there is kind of a broad definition of emergent care, what that can be considered. I mean, it's not bleaching, it's not a veneer case. So this is what I'm going to tell you. I came in this past Monday, and I have been in a couple other times prior, but the nature of the other emergencies, there was less emergencies, there were different suture removals, a denture cutting into somebody's tissue, and quite honestly, my auxiliaries could handle 99% of that with my overlooking the situation, which they did. And look, you know I keep this fully honest with you. I'm wondering if you're watching me, well, does he pay them for that? How does he handle that? And, you know, look, here's the truth. I've had a handful of staff members, by that I mean 3 or 4, work very part-time during this whole thing. What's part-time? I don't know, a total of a day a week, maybe 2 half days on their own, with maybe one day, Doc, you'll remember this and make it up to me. Why would they do that? We could get into real deep discussions or go back to some of my podcasts on hiring the right people, that's where it comes from. There's two communities. There's a community of your team, and there's a community of your patients, right? And in that community, it's made up of different types of people. You got Marines, Navy SEALs that love to work, love hard work, and would come in, they want to be here, and that's who's coming in for me. They don't want to be home. They don't even care that they're not getting paid, and I can't pay them because they're on unemployment. So I'm not trying to get over on them, and I would have zero attitude if, in fact, they chose, after coming in once or twice, that they don't want to do that anymore. But I have to tell you, the great majority of my team have been pretty invisible, even when I reach out to them. I get more emails from you guys. So when you hear me tell you to be a leader, and remember, I have a team of like 20 people that work for me. So my community is certainly larger than those of you that have 4 or 5 staff members. So I have a higher probability probably of having a number of people that would do what I just said. So I'm telling you all this because I don't want you to feel off about your own personal situation. The majority of my team is invisible, even though I'm reaching out to them. I have no idea what most of them are thinking. That's me, the guy that's gone around the country for the last 22 years and told you how to build what I used to call the dream team. So you've heard me say it on another podcast that all over social media is this phrase, we're all in this together. No, we're not. We're not all in this together. We're all going through it together, but we're not all in this together. If you're a single mother and you're really dependent on your job to work, that's probably a little different than some of my coworkers that are married to successful guys. And I don't even know if they really need to work. And one of my parameters for you when you hire people, and this may not sound sexy, but I'm not here to be sexy. I'm here to tell you the truth. One of my parameters is, if you can, hire people that need to work. They don't call out on Mondays. They get it, and it's just the way life is. There's an old saying I think it's called the Pareto rule. You can Google it. Paretto. I may not pronounce it correctly. And it's that 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of everything. That includes everything. Time, the people that you hire. It's amazing, quite honestly. It really is. It's worth you looking it up if you're not familiar with it. And so I'm hoping that those of you listening, whether you're in Europe or Canada or Asia or the United States, have that 20%, a couple people that would go in for you and help me facilitate all the things you've heard me talk about over the last 7 weeks. So when I came in this Monday, I have to tell you, my takeaway, don't get mad at me. I'm trying to be real with you because I'm going to go through the exact same thing. This is going to take an epic effort. I have been through so many professional and national challenges in my 39 years. I felt prepared for absolutely anything in my life. I mean it. We all don't go through the same course of life, right? We don't. And some of us create our own landmines. We got to get through those. And sometimes a landmine is dumped on us that was no fault of ours. A recession. When I started in 1980, shortly after that, I think around 1990, the HIV rage was changing the face of dentistry. We had to deal with all that. This may shock you, but early in my career, lots of us didn't wear gloves. I know, I get it, but it's the truth. We didn't. Or face mask. Maybe for an extraction. I said maybe for an extraction. So I'm telling you this, I've been through lots of, oh my God, now how are we going to navigate through this? Now I remember when we didn't heat sterilize the drills. And so can many of my colleagues. So here we are. And my point is that this present crisis, even to a guy that's been through some wars, is going to require an epic find your inner strength if you care about getting back. Because I don't think it's going to last forever. I mean, I know it's not. So you got to muster up energy, and it's going to be hard. I found it Monday, and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, the PPEs are a nightmare. They're physically imposing. It feels like you're not really there working. It's like having one of your ears clogged, like you're not fully present. We're going to have to get used to that because I think in the beginning, that's not going to be optional. I personally don't think all the PPE requirements are going to stay at the level that they're at indefinitely. Like back in 90s, we started sterilizing drills, and of course we wear gloves and masks and all the things that the dental profession has embraced in a good way. I mean, that was all good stuff. It's very hard to navigate through even an easy day. I saw like 8 patients on Monday, and it was tiresome and arduous. And I say this to you because I'm very aware of what I've been telling you for 8 weeks, that we can come back, and we're going to come back. Let me make clear that we are going to come back, and you are going to make it back, but it's going to take some kick butt effort by you. It is. This is not a little thing on many, many levels. One of the levels for sure is just literally getting through the new protocols that your patients are going to look at that are going to make them feel safe. And that is, calling them up in the parking lot when you're ready for the room. I don't even know what point our reception rooms are going to serve for quite some time. I don't. And I haven't even talked about your team yet. And that's a whole nother issue. And I'm not even sure I'll get to all this in this podcast, but let me be focused for a minute. That would be good, right? For a change. Because it's hard. When I do these podcasts, I'm talking to you. There's nobody watching me. I'm looking in a camera, and I'm hoping I'm talking right to you, those of you that can see me. And I'm trying to give you my heartfelt recommendation that you're really going to have to dig deep. If you go into this comeback like, no big deal, or I'll get through it, whatever it is, I think you're in for a rude awakening. And I'm not saying we can't do it. We are going to do it. I mean, what's my option? What's your option? What am I going to sell? It'd be the worst time in the history of dentistry to sell your practice, in my opinion. Can you retire if you can afford to retire? Sure. Then I don't know why you're watching me. Sure. No, this is a Lion-Hearted Dentist podcast series for those of us that want to live the dream, whether you're a D4 dental student or out for 2 years and you're about to buy your first practice, or you're an old coot like me that still loves what he does, and this is my kingdom, the only place I feel so powerful and competent. That's the truth. And, the money's pretty damn good, too. So, yeah, I'm fighting for this. But I'm going to tell you, it's a bigger fight than I anticipated, just through the PPEs. I can't imagine anybody resurrecting their prior revenue stream at the same level. It's not going to happen. So let's talk about that for a minute. One of the things you're going to have to do here, you really need to sit down with your accountant, unless you're really good at it, or you have a partner that's really good at it. You need to really sit down and figure out your fixed expenses each month and be prepared to see how you're going to be able to address those fixed expenses. Do you need to go back to your bank and renegotiate? This is the real world, man. I'm talking about. I know it's not warm and fuzzy today, but my takeaways were that A, how impacted you are will depend to some degree on how big the nucleus of your dental practice is. And you've heard me say, because I spent multiple podcasts talking to you about developing a large nucleus. And how do you do that? You retain patients. How do you retain patients? You don't establish a my way or the highway attitude. You don't do that. But you do have to develop, be sure you're understanding me, you have to develop what I call lines in the sand. Lines in the sand mean, what are your parameters where you say, I'm not going to do that? So, example, patient comes in, as I said in my last podcast, and they need a crown on number 30. But they have a sea of inflammation that is actually asymptomatic to them. That's not okay, in my opinion, embracing my model of success. You can't just say yes to everything. I'm not talking about a patient that's got pocketing of 5s, 6s, and 7s. I mean the patient's got 3s, maybe 4s, and they just have unhealthy tissue. To me, that's a line in the sand. To me, all other ongoing pathology is that they don't know that's a problem, but you see it as a problem, a significant periapical lesion that you think should be treated. Not because you want to increase their treatment plan, because on the most basic level, it's the care that you think they need. You get me? But I think that you establishing a practice, and if you can do this, then you live in a different neighborhood than I do, where everybody can have centric relation equals centric occlusion, and they all get equilibrated, and everybody replaces missing teeth, and everybody gets rid of amalgam restorations that aren't pretty, but you don't find recurrent decay around them. And I don't have hardly anybody with that, by the way. Having a large nucleus means that they go through my comprehensive exam, but they don't always accept it. And they leave with still a reasonably good taste in their mouth, like, wow, that's a good office. They're not for me because they're too high priced. That happens. Or they're not for me because he wants me to treat my gums, and there's nothing wrong with my gums. I have a little blood in them when I spit. Those kind of things. I'm okay if they don't accept my care as long as they understand this was a quality office. From the very first phone call to the last words we uttered, including a decline of my treatment and my financial obligations for that treatment. You get me? That's a big, big thing to talk about in running your practice. And if you don't know it, you need to write to me. If you don't understand the lines in the sand. Because I'm not here saying to you, look, a lot of practices are taught this. A patient comes in with a specific chief complaint. They're told to address the chief complaint. So they break a tooth and you put a temporary crown on it. Or you put a temporary restoration in it. And you get them out of that symptom. Or they have a loose tooth and you pull it. Day one, I'm talking. Or you initiate a emergency pulpotomy. Your thinking is, I'll get them back on a regular scheduled visit and I'll give them my quality new patient experience. That's a mistake. You know why it's a mistake? Because we work in a profession where a lot of what we do is elective. It's not elective to me or you listening to me, but it's elective to a lot of patients. They don't have to replace number 4, 6 for my foreign country friends. In our world, number 30. They don't have to replace that if you extract it. They're not dying from that. What about they don't treat the relatively early inflammation of their soft tissue? Are they going to end up in a hospital with that most of the time? No. And patients know this. So my point is, So yes, what we do is often elective. Just like a plastic surgeon. You don't have to have plastic surgery. It's a nice option. And I think we're above that, of course. I'm not saying everything we do. I'm saying a comprehensive exam and treatment recommendation approach for a optimum healthy dentition, to some degree, to many patients, is elective. And that being the case, you have to follow those rules with your business model and understand those. And my point is, if you bring somebody in that they finally have the flame underneath them to seek oral health care, and you blow it off by treating them on the minimal level with the thinking they'll come back, I'm sure that works once in a while. I've never subscribed to it. So I want to keep this brief. Next week when you tune in, I'm going to get right to how did I handle a couple of the patients that came in on Monday that for the first time during this whole corona shutdown, they actually needed further work. And I want to give you my experience with it and how it's related to my post-opening treatment planning approach in the corona era that we're living in. But hang in, guys. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work. I'm bummed out about it. I kind of want to find out, to be honest. I need to get in to see how I'm going to fight this bear that I'm up against, so I can help you with revelations I have each week that I'm finding out about. Hang tough. If you love dentistry, you're listening to the right podcast. Hang in there, guys. Thanks.